Good morning, everybody, and a warm welcome, dear audience, to today's EMC webinar live from Rotkreuz. We are pleased that so many of you are here again. The focus today will be on electromagnetic compatibility with the topic RadiMation Software for all EMC devices. Today we have the honor to welcome two specialists as speakers, John de Roy from Raditeq and our Markus Fuhrer, whom you surely all know already.
Good morning all together.
Before we start into the presentation, I have some organizational points for you. Our experts will start with a short round of introduction themselves before John then goes into the presentation and deep inside the topic. If you have any questions, we'd love you to post them in the chat box on the right side, and we will answer them live afterwards or email you the answer if it cannot be answered live. Usually at the bottom of the screen, you will find a rectangle to maximize the screen display so that you have the best possibility of seeing every content we share with you. In the follow-up, you will receive the recording via email if you want to repeat some topics for you in your speed. And please, one recommendation from my side, in the next weeks until the end of the year, there will be more exciting webinars from our side in different topics. So please feel free to go on our website in the Academy section and look inside what can be interesting for you. Now, I wish you great experience with the EMC webinar, RadiMation Software for all devices.
Yes.
Cheers.
Thank you. Good morning all together. I'm Markus Fuhrer. I'm responsible for the sales of EMC at Emitec Industrial, and I'm also here for to answer all your questions you have about EMC. But today we have one really expert, John de Roy from Raditeq. He is, let's say, more the father of the software, and I hope you will follow what he tell you about the RadiMation software. John, you can introduce yourself directly so the people knows who is the really expert of RadiMation.
Yeah, hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for Emitec to providing me the possibility to present something about RadiMation. Indeed, my name is John de Roy. I'm working for Raditeq more than 25 years. I'm working for Raditeq. Raditeq is a company providing instruments and products for EMC testing. We create signal generators, power meters, amplifiers, field strength probes, and so on. And one of the products is our RadiMation EMC software. And yes, I've created it a long time ago, still working for it, still improving it. And that's what I would like to give you some feedback about today. Shall I just continue with the presentation right now? Okay. Today I want to tell you something about the RadiMation software. Indeed, with the title One Software for all EMC devices and all EMC tests. The topics that I would like to discuss is what is RadiMation, some feedback about the history and the design philosophy, what we do with device drivers and EMC standards. After that, I would like to discuss some typical measurement setups like the radiated and conducted emission setups, but also the immunity setups, different setups that are available over there, what you can do with RadiMation and how to automate them. One really good functionality of the RadiMation software is the automated report generator. So I can provide you with some advantage benefits of the report generator. And after that, I would like to discuss what we do during an installation, which modules are available, how we handle support. And after that, we can handle some questions that are raised in the chat box. So for the history of RadiMation. We started in 1995 and we intended to create a software package only for internal usage at DARE. And in the past, Raditec was called DARE. The renaming DARE has been renamed to Raditec in 2020, but initially it started only for internal usage. However, already in 1996, we were visited by another test laboratory. They saw that we used this software, and from that we also they asked, can we also use it? And from that we did the first installation in 1996 in an automotive manufacturer in Luxembourg. And from that moment on, we also sold the software for other companies to use. And we now have more than hundreds of installations worldwide, ranging from China, America, from Australia to Argentina, to all European countries and so on. There is a wide range of customers that are using RadiMation. Those are, for example, the very large accredited test laboratories, but also research facilities. But also the smaller manufacturers of electronic devices use RadiMation to test their own products. And even there are very small, even one-person companies, for example, consulting companies that are using RadiMation to do testing for some situations or on-site testing as well. So we are able to provide an automated software for the very big companies and also for the very small companies. And the design philosophy of RadiMation is that it automates the equipment under testing. And what we've seen at a lot of competitors' software packages is that they automate the control of the test instrumentation. But that's not the important part. The important part is that the equipment under test is being tested, because you're interested to see if the EUT is complying to the standards. And that's why the EUT is the most important ID or the principle in RadiMation. Also, we of course state that we have full traceable test results according ISO 17025. So every data can be reviewed, can be retrieved afterwards, corrections can be checked afterwards and so on. So it's all the data is stored and can be traced back. Another design philosophy of RadiMation is that there is only one package for all tests, and that all data of the EUT and of the performed tests and the testing equipment is all in one location. So it's as to review the test information, you can just open the EUT file, and every test, the emission test, the immunity test, the pulse immunity test can all be retrieved from that one single EUT file. Storing that one EUT file on the network for later retrieval contains everything, all the test results and so on. So everything is on one location. We provide a very user-friendly software package. It's not too complicated. We have a lot of settings. We really think about how much options and checkboxes we show on the screen. So to have not an overly complex user interface, it's an easy to use interface. And if you know how to control one test, you also know how to control the other test from the other module. Besides that, we still try to optimize the speed of RadiMation. Also, recently, we have introduced options where we are controlling measurement devices in parallel, so that we do not wait for one device to give an answer before we question the next device. Both devices are controlled in parallel so that they have an answer back at the same time, so we can introduce and optimize this total speed that is being controlled. We still strive to have a fully automated test procedure. It's still possible in RadiMation to start a test, to run a sequence which first performs a radiated immunity test, then runs a conductive immunity test, then switches over to an automated emission test, and then it's even possible to automatically generate a report. So even overnight testing without an operator being present should be possible. And then at the end of the day, you start a sequence, and the next morning you can come back, all the tests being done, the reports being generated. So full automated test procedures are possible. And one of the design philosophies is that we also would like to 3D engineer from annoying tasks. So reviewing or monitoring the state of the EUT and typing all data or test results over in the report, and also filling in data of an end user over and over again every time that a test is being performed. Those are annoying tasks that for an engineer. We are reducing that as much as possible so that the engineer has optimal time to concentrate on the actual testing and not doing repetitive tasks over and over again. One of the big benefits of RadiMation is that we are very open to other brands of equipment, open for exporting data, open to import even calibration data from other software packages, so that the calibration has not to be done over again when you switch over to RadiMation usage. So we are very open, very flexible in that sense. We have a lot of device drivers in RadiMation. And not only for our own equipment, but we support drivers for every brand and every model of EMC equipment. We even have device drivers for very old devices, and they are still provided with the installation of RadiMation. At this moment, we have more than 5,900 device drivers available, and all these device drivers are available on our RadiWiki website. You can download the drivers from the RadiWiki website, install them in RadiMation, and all those devices are being able to be controlled with RadiMation. And those device drivers are not simple device drivers, but those are very often intelligent device drivers. So these are checking device drivers. So when we control or send a command to the device, we also question the device. Did you understand the command? Is it performed? Did it raise any errors? And if an error was raised during that command, we also show that command to the end user. So it's clear that it is something went wrong, and the end engineer can investigate what was going wrong. We also see that other software packages are just sending commands and just not checking if the command is accepted or is doing it correctly. And that's why we are using checking device drivers to ensure that the test is working correctly. And this is very often also, of course, required by ISO 17025. These device drivers have advanced settings where you can select the filter that should be used, or a specific module or a specific option that should be used. And these device drivers have a configuration dialog where those options can be selected, so you can tweak and tune the device driver to use a specific configuration of the device, specifically for that device. Besides the standard device drivers, we also have configurable device drivers. And those device drivers allow the end user to send some custom commands or specific commands to a device where they can kind of program the device driver themselves. And this can, for example, be used for devices that we do not yet provide a device driver for, or that is a custom-made device or something else. And of course, we do support devices to be controlled by LAN or by USB, by GPIB, by USB TMC, by RS-232. Very often I say, if a device has a connection to a PC, we are able to control it. So no matter how it's connected to the PC, we will be technically possible to control it. In the past, we even controlled devices using a parallel printer port and so on. So there is no limitation in that. Recently, we also implemented the auto detection of connected devices. So then when you start RadiMation, you can do an auto detection, and then RadiMation will scan all the buses. It will detect which devices are available on which GPIB board or on which RS-232 connection. And then RadiMation will help you to create the drivers with the correct communication settings and so on. And this is really helping in getting RadiMation up and running very fast at the new installation. And also there are all-in-one devices like the Emitec, CWS generators, and also Schleuder and EMTest. They are creating devices where they have a signal generator, amplifier, power meter, and coupler all in one box. RadiMation sees them as different components, but also those devices are just able to be controlled by RadiMation and fully supported. Now, I just created this slide with some pictures of devices that we are still able supporting and still controlling. And you see the old Roland Schwarz UV power meters. We support the old HP power meters, the Marconi signal generators, also the modern analyzers like the Roland Schwarz ESW we support, but also the older Roland Schwarz ESI is still supported. And on the bottom right, there's even the very old HP 8566 analyzer. All these devices are working in RadiMation, can be controlled, and there's no problem at all to control these devices. This is only a small set of the equipment that we control. Very often we already have a device driver for any of the devices that you're using or having in your laboratory. We already have a device driver for it. And then we also support different standards. However, there is no fixed standard known in RadiMation because we have a generic configuration of the test, which is not standard specific. And we have a test setup file, which is the configuration of the test. And the test setup file can be configured to use a start and a stop frequency and a test level and a modulation type and so on. And all the important settings are available to be configured in the test setup file. And by setting the correct start and stop frequency, by setting the modulation type, by setting the carrier level, the test can be configured to comply to every standard. So we fully support the automotive CISPA 25 test, we support the MIL standard test, we support the DO 160 testing. All these tests are just supported, and they can be easily supported by just changing or setting the correct settings in the test setup file according to what's required by the standard. So you will not see an option where you can select the standard. You just configure the test settings according to the standard. This has the big benefit that if a new standard is provided, that RadiMation will be able to control the test according to that standard, because you just have to specify the changes, just a different level or a different modulation type or a different frequency range. You can just adjust the test configuration, and then you also will be able to test according to the new standard, which we are not aware of or which will be provided in the future. And this is also the reason why we support specific standards like the General Motor standards or the ECSS standards for space testing and so on. You only have to modify the settings of the test, and then it will be able to provide testing according to every standard that's available. So it's very flexible in that way. If we're going to review some of the tests setups that are available, we start with radiated and conducted emission. We call it RE and CE for radiated emission and conducted emission. And one of the concepts that we have now is that we have multi-band testing. And in the test configuration, you can define one band, which is just a frequency band from the start frequency to the stop frequency. But it can also be multiple bands, and those bands can be concatenated to each other. They can have gaps in between. They can be partially overlapping. They can be fully overlapping. There can be multiple bands, and there is no limitation on the bands that are available. And it allows for very flexible configuration with different requirements on the test, and every possibility is available, and it has a lot of benefits to do. Of course, when you start that test with multiple bands, the result will be one overall emission graph, where all the results of the different bands will be combined in one graph, so you have a clear overview of what is the test result is. And for an emission test, the idea is that we first do a pre-scan. The initial sweeps will be taken, then automatic peak detection will be performed, where the emission, the pre-scan, will be compared to the limit lines, and when the peak is close to the limit line or even over the limit line, it will be marked as a peak. Then the end engineer has the possibility to add additional peaks or discard some peaks or do some modifications on the peaks. And then after the peaks are reviewed, then the final measurement is performed, and then often with the quasi-peak or with the average detector, the final measurement on the detected peaks will be performed. So those are the stages for an emission test. One of the options is that you can control the change order, and the change order determines if you first would like to rotate the turntable and then move the antenna height. But some other end users would like to have to first increase the antenna height before they rotate the turntable. By changing the change order, by setting the antenna height higher than the turntable, the end user is flexible in configuring in which order the devices should be controlled. And this allows also the very flexible configuration and easy to control how the automated test is being performed. Of course, we include graphs like the polar plot, where you have a graph of the emission depending on the turntable. We can also do continuous measurements over time, where you can see the measurement results every 100 milliseconds. So you see a live view of the peaked value. And we support the ambient suppression, so that we first initially create, this is very important for on-site testing, that you initially create a noise level sweep without the EUT being turned on. Then that can be a reference sweep. And when you then turn on the EUT and perform the test again, you can suppress all the ambient signals from the final result. So you only see the information of the EUT. This is all supported. It's a technical, more in-depth definition. It's too short to discuss it right here, but those features are all available also in the emission module. And of course, we supply also tools for the calibration of cables, so you can adapt for cable losses, and you can correct your measurement results for the cable losses. This is an example of the radiated emission full or semi-anechoic chamber, which can be used for electrical field measurements, but also magnetic field measurements, and also power measurements are supported. Based on if you select electrical field or magnetic field or power field, the results are just shown in dB microvolt or dB microamps per meter or in dBm values. It's easy to configure, and also, of course, the units can be adjusted to present it in volts per meter or in another unit or in dB picotesla, for example, like that. We do support spectrum analyzer mode, we support the receiver mode, we support scanning receiver mode, and also the modern receivers very often have an FFT or a time domain mode. All these different modes of the analyzer can be controlled with RadiMation, and it's up to the preference of the end user. We can support the mode that's preferred. And of course, we also support the rotation of the turntable, movement of the antenna with the antenna tower, also including the horizontal or the vertical polarization. So it can all be automated, can all be automatically controlled. For radiated emission testing, we also support the GTEM Cell. It measures the X, the Y, and the Z orientation. We also, during that rotation, during that measurement, you of course have to rotate the EUT inside the GTEM. We support the automatic control of rotators, so that the software RadiMation controls if the EUT should be repositioned. It's also possible to configure it to give a feedback to the engineer that it has to be repositioning it manually if no automated rotator is possible. And after the X, Y, and Z are measured, then also the correlation calculation to convert those measurements into one measurement result correlated to how it should be measured or how the measurement result would be on an open area test site is also being performed. And this calculation is using the height of the EUT, it's using the antenna tower height, the antenna distance, and the table height on the OATs. It's all taken into account to calculate the correct result compared to what it would be on an OATs. Because that final result, as it would be measured on the OATs, that's used to compare it to the limit line to determine if the emission is above or below the limit. All integrated and all performed automatically by RadiMation. And then for conducted emission, it's a very simple setup with an analyzer or a receiver connected to the listen, where the EFT is connected to the listen. It's relatively simple measurement, but also just supported. Also, the automatic control of the listen to switch between listen lines is fully supported. So the engineer only has to start the test, and then automatically all lines are measured, the peaks are detected, the peaks are final measured on the line that they were the highest value. So it's a fully automated measurement to perform this conducted emission measurement. And as part of the conducted emission module, we also support measurements of the current sensor. Antenna terminal measurements can be performed where the result is shown in dBm or in power values. And also the absorbing clamp is supported, even with the automated control of the absorbing clamp along the power supply line is all available and easy to control. If we then also explain a little bit of the setup that are available in RadiMation for the radiated and the conducted immunity modules, we again have here multi-band testing. And for the benefit of having multi-band is that you can use one band with one amplifier and one antenna, and you can create a second band for another antenna and amplifier, and a third band for a third amplifier. And by using these multiple bands, it's possible to create a setup where you from 80 megahertz to 1 gigahertz create a band with one amplifier and antenna, then attach a band from 1 gigahertz to, for example, 6 gigahertz. If you, for example, use a radio field unit, and then you can also add a band from 6 gigahertz to 18 gigahertz, and then you can do an additional band from 18 gigahertz to 40 gigahertz. And with these different bands, you will have one test that is able to control all the frequencies from 80 megahertz to 40 gigahertz with different amplifiers, different bands, and so on. And of course, you need some switch matrices to control, to switch between amplifiers, or even to switch between signal generators. Full control of switch matrices is possible, and any switch matrix and switching can be done automatically with RadiMation. So it's one automatic measurement all over the frequency range. Another possibility and a benefit of the multi-band testing is that you can have two bands with the modulation. So you can have one band with no modulation. You can have a second band with the same frequency range, but with different modulation, for example, with AM modulation. You can even have a third band with the pulse modulation option. And by specifying different modulations for different bands, you have one test where all the modulations are being tested. With the change order, you can then, an end user can decide if he first would like to change the frequency, where all the frequencies are tested, and then the next frequency, the next modulation is being activated, and then all frequencies are tested, and then finally the pulse modulation is activated, and all the frequencies are tested. Or you can decide to change the change order, where on the first frequency only no modulation is done, then AM modulation is done, then pulse modulation is done, and then to the next frequency where all the three modulations are done, tested, and then to the next frequency where all the three modulations are tested, and so on. So if you first sweep the frequency or first change the modulation, RadiMation is able to do that by just changing the change order, and then the automated test will just obey the settings that are selected in the configuration. For frequencies, we support stepped frequencies, so that you have a fixed frequency, a 10 megahertz step, for example. We support logarithmic step frequencies. We support frequency lists, so that you have a fixed list of specific frequencies that you would like to be tested. We can also say, okay, for example, we would like to have 10 frequencies in this band, and then RadiMation will calculate which 10 frequencies are best fitting in that band, and that can be linearly separated or it can be logarithmically separated. And it's also possible to combine, to do time-based frequency stepping, so that it is possible to say, okay, I will have a band, I would like to perform some frequency steps, but it should take exactly 20 minutes. And then RadiMation will just take those frequency steps that the complete band will be performed in exactly 20 minutes. Depending on how much time it takes to do a test, RadiMation will adapt the frequency step to reach that time. So there is a very powerful mechanism to determine which frequencies are being tested. Of course, an important part of the immunity test is to determine if the EUT is being influenced. So we have an extensive set of EUT monitoring possibilities. So we can use AD converters, oscilloscopes, multimeters, for all kind of monitoring devices. We have device drivers and a possibility to configure the devices to monitor the output of the EUT. Also, optical monitoring tools like NK mesh technique, motion detection, or the ETS Röntgen Vision TRX software are supported and can be used to have an optical monitoring of the EUT. One important part in the last few years in the immunity testing is that the amplifier is being verified to be correctly and to be used in its linear range. So also with the radiated immunity module in RadiMation, it's possible to do a 5.1 dB linearity check of your amplifier, but we also provide the tools to do a gain compression test, where you can, for example, determine the 1 dB compression point of your amplifier. And we also provide tools to determine and to measure the harmonics that are being generated by an amplifier. And this can be done on the power value, but it can also be done on the field harmonics that are being generated inside the chamber. So we also provide these tools that are needed for a very accredited laboratory to verify that the amplifier is being correctly used. Now, this is a typical setup for a radiated immunity test with the signal generator, the amplifier, a coupler, a power meter connected to antenna inside the anechoic chamber. And in the anechoic chamber, you of course have done the EUT or the field probe during the calibration. And RadiMation supports the calibration of the field, also supports the testing. The calculation based on the calibration files, we can calculate the uniform field area to determine if the beamed area is within the 0 to 6 dB tolerance range. And also recently, we also implemented that we have the support of an automated probe positioner. So we can control the positioner to move the field probe along the 16 points. So that you have one test that tests calibrates all the 16 points. And so it's very easy to perform the UFA calculation. And an engineer only has to set up the probe positioner, start the test, then he can walk away, do some other operations or other work. He can come back after 2 or 3 hours, and then all the 16 points are automatically measured. A very flexible and advanced feature of the immunity testing is the test level configuration. And the test level configuration is just a specification to which field or power or field strength or current or voltage level should be regulated. And there can be a requirement for, okay, I would like to achieve 10 volts per meter on the field probe. That can be based on a calibration file that has been created, but it can also be a closed loop field probe measurement. And it can include also limitations like I would like not to go higher than 100 watts inside of the amplifier, out of the amplifier. But also limitations with currents and voltage level limitations or requirements are available. So the test level configuration allows the end user to specifically state how the regulation of the power should be performed, what the limitations are of the maximum power being generated, and how it should be regulating to that. Also, the GTEM cell, the gigahertz transverse electromagnetic cell, is fully supported in RadiMation. Also, this can be done with the calibration tools, and also testing can be done with this setup. We have a very flexible UFA, uniform field area tool, which calculates the result of multiple points. In the past, we always called it the 16-point calculation because it was based on the 16 points from the radiated humidity setup. However, the calculation itself is not limited to 16 points. It can be 32 points. It can be 24 points. There is no limitation in the number of points. And some of our end users are also using it with 58 points divided over a 3-meter wide area and a 2-meter high area, for example. And it also, as you can see on the screen, it doesn't have to be a regular shape. It can also be 4 points with 1 point in the middle, or an 8-point variation. So it's very flexible to determine which points and on which layout of the points can be done. So that also allows to do the very often the 5-point calculation inside the GTEM. And of course, not only the GTEM, but also the strip line and also a temp cell can be used for testing, and RadiMation is fully supporting those tools also. For the conducted immunity testing, it's more or less similar. The signal generator, amplifier, coupler, power meter with an attenuator into a CDN to influence or inject a signal on the power lines or on the communication lines of the EUT. It's fully supported. We allow the calibration of the setup. We can do a substitution afterwards of that calibration. And it's very simple to perform a test like this. Also, the EM clamp, the Luthi EM101 clamp, for example, is fully supported. For the calibration, we can use a power meter or a spectrum analyzer can be used to verify the calibration signal during the calibration. And it's easy to configure. RadiMation also is aware if it's a 150 ohm or for a BCI clamp, it very often is a 50 ohm system, but there are some differences in how the calibration should be done. It has effect on the calibration. RadiMation is fully aware of these differences and is able to use the EM101 testing, but also the BCI clamp testing is fully done. This is a setup that's very often used for automotive testing, but can also be in other standards. Then we also have the pulse immunity module inside RadiMation. For PI is what we call it, pulse immunity. It supports the ESD test, the electrostatic discharge test. We do not support an automated version of the ESD test, and there are systems with a robot hand moving the ESD gun to positions and so on. That's not what we support at this moment. Would be nice, but it's not supported. But we still provide the tool to enter all the data. So the engineer can manually perform the ESD test, but he is able to store the results. And it has the benefit that all the results are stored in the EUT file. And it has the benefit that finally a report can be automatically generated, including the immunity testing, but also the results of this EUT test. And of course, we support multiple discharge points configuration with contact and air discharge, horizontal, vertical coupling plane. And for each of these test configurations at multiple points and with different planes and discharge types, the end engineer can specify, okay, it's a test result, it's a pass or it's a fail, and he can note down a note what happened, or if the device did a reset, or something else happened, like LED being temporary lighting or something like that. So all the results of this EU test can be recorded, can be entered by the engineer in the software. Then we also support the EFT-burst test, and this is an automated test again, so RadiMation is able to control the EFT-burst generator. And this is also done in a multi-band style. So multiple bands can be configured with multiple test levels. Positive discharge, negative discharge can be configured. Different line combinations can be configured. And all the parameters of the burst can also be configured. And those burst parameters will also be transferred to the burst generator to do the automated test in the way that's configured in the test. Also, the order in which the variations are performed can be changed, and the engineer has full flexibility if he first want to increase the test level to other test levels, or he first want to do other line combinations or other polarizations. There is full flexibility for the end engineer to determine how the test in which order it should be performed. Also in this test, per band, per configuration, the test results can be noted down by the engineer. So there is no, it's easy to track down which happened on which situation, which test level. So it's very flexible to review the test information. Also, EUT monitoring is possible. So we have automated measurements of the EUT, and the measurement results of the EUT will be shown in a graph. So it can be tracked down during the EFT test if the EUT is influenced. All automatic supported now. For search, it's more or less similar. We can control the search generator with multiple bands, with multiple test levels and polarities. Also, the test results can be specified here per band, and the pulse parameters can be configured. The pulse count, the pulse repetition time, the RI and the CI can be specified and will be transferred to the search generator. And also automated EUT monitoring is fully supported in this test mode. And also very similar for the voltage dips and interrupts. RadiMation is able to control the variac and the simulator to generate the dips on the voltage lines or on the power supply lines. Can also be, all the settings can be configured, the phase angle on which it should be done, the pulse count, the pulse repetition time, how deep the pulse should be done, can all be configured. So it's a fully automated test, which just performs all the testing. And also in this test, also monitoring of the EUT can be done automatically. So you can afterwards review, okay, on which pulse did the device reset or restart or have a dip on its output value or something like that. And then we also have, that was the description of all the different test modules that we have. And then we have the report generator, the RG, the automated report generator inside RadiMation. And we do not have a single report generator. We support Word, Microsoft Word, we support Microsoft Excel, we support generating reports in text, in CSV format. Nowadays, we also have support for the other editors like Open Document and Open Office are also supported at this moment. And the philosophy that we use is that you have to specify a template which describes how the final report should be looking like. And that template is just a normal Word file or a normal Excel file. And in that template file, in that document, you just include codes. And codes in RadiMation is what we call with a double pipe at the begin, a double pipe at the end. And then there's a specific name for that code. And depending on which code is specified in between the double pipes, it will be replaced with a text, with a table, with a graph or an image. In that way, you will be able to create a template which inserts all the specific design information on the correct locations inside your template, building the final report. A very easy way to start, sometimes it's overwhelming for new end users to create this template. What we advise is that we just use an existing report and then do a reverse translation. So on every location in an existing report where you have some information, just remove that information, like for example, the resolution bandwidth that's being used, and replace that with the code. So that you say pipe, RBW, pipe. And in that way, you can convert an existing report into a template, which can then be used by RadiMation to generate exactly similar looking report on the actual test results. And it allows you with your own header design, with your own logo, with your own company data. It can be, the report can be in German, in English, in Chinese, no matter which language can be used. So it's full flexible configuration of the report generator. And we can generate reports that are exactly looking the same as the reports that are being generated right now manually by the end user. However, we can do it automatically. There are a lot of advanced features inside the report generator, like SQL queries being performed on a tables. We can insert graphs which are combinations of the power graph and the field graph, or only the field graph. So there are a lot of advanced topics. Also, test-specific report generator templates can help in creating very large reports. We have end users that are generating reports of 200 pages using these test-specific report generator templates. So a lot is possible. And it's so powerful and flexible that we also use it for our own printout. So if in RadiMation you click on the print button, RadiMation is using Word to generate, using a template that we provided in with RadiMation to generate the report, and then we automatically print out the printout. And that's how we use. So we use our own report generator to also create the print functionality in RadiMation. One of the things that we also recently improved is that we have a more advanced export tool to export test results. So all data is available as a graph and as a table, and we can show frequency graphs, we can show angle graphs or height graphs or graphs based on the time index. Those graphs can all be copied to the clipboard, so you can paste them inside Word or in Excel. So you can include it easily in your documents. However, it can also be using the export tool, and you can use it to export data to the correction, to limit line files or to call files and so on. So this tool is also more powerful nowadays to convert your data provided in other format. So this is a very brief overview of RadiMation. I still would like to explain a little bit about what we normally do during an installation, which software modules we have. The modules that we provide is RI, radiated immunity, CI, conducted immunity, radiated emission, conducted emission, the report generator. And depending on which modules you would like to use, you can purchase RadiMation with only that specific module. So there's no need to buy all modules. You can specifically buy, even for one PC, only with radiated immunity module, and you can buy a license for RadiMation for another PC with only with the radiated emission module. So it's very flexible. We also have a module that's called Raditeq, and that supports network analyzer, S parameters, and more advanced calibration modules. But we very often have to have a discussion about which calibration you would like to perform, and sometimes we also provide the Raditeq module in that way. We allow single PC configurations like a core plus a specific module, but also bundles are available, like an immunity bundle, which includes the core, the conducted immunity, radiated immunity, and the report generator. But we also have a conducted bundle where you do conducted immunity and conducted emission, for example. And then we also have site licenses where you have, if you have multiple PCs, we have a discount for the licenses if you have multiple PCs on one site or you have multiple sites and so on. There is a distinction between the essential version of RadiMation, which is a slimmed down version of RadiMation, which has a limitation in the number of bands and the number of devices that can be used. And there's the professional, the pro version of RadiMation. Depending on what's required, the essential version can suffice to perform testing, but also the professional version can do everything. So that's a variation that's available. And of course, we strongly encourage to also use the service contract, because the service contract for RadiMation allows you to do the software updates we can provide you with fixes on problems that you found or situations that are not working correctly. We can provide you with new device drivers. And also we have a very good support also using the Radilog tool that's integrated in RadiMation. During RadiMation installation, we very often ask the end user to fill in the RadiMation installation guide. It's just a questionnaire with general information, with the list of devices that you have in your company, so we can check if all the device drivers are available. We support, free of charge, we will create device drivers for every whitelisted manufacturer. So the big EMC manufacturers like Ronshard's, Keysight, PMM, NADA, all those manufacturers are whitelisted, and we will provide device drivers free of charge. If there is a device that you would like to have a device driver for, which is a very specific device, we can charge you for a small fee to integrate that device driver. But then it has to be a company created device, something like that. We can do the installation on site, where we visit, I or one of my colleagues visit you to do the on-site installation. We can also do it remote, so that we use, for example, Microsoft Teams or TeamViewer to do the remote support and help you remotely to do the installation. And very often we do the on-the-job training, where we explain how RadiMation can be configured and how it can be set up for the administrators. And then we also do a small training on the job for the test end users that are really using the software day to day. So we often prefer to do this on the job. It's the most practical use. It's the fastest way to learn and to see what's working, what's not working. So that's the way of the training that we do. The requirements of RadiMation is any modern PC will suffice. The screen resolution of RadiMation, we require a full HD monitor. Windows 10, Windows 11 is fully supported. We support the GPB boards of Nestor Instruments, and also the Keysight GPB board is supported. So there is no real strict requirement. Most of the time will not be a problem. And then for support, we have a worldwide reseller network, where we have resellers in all different countries worldwide. They can provide you with local support. For Switzerland, that is, of course, Emitec, which can provide you with support and information. Marcus Führer is the contact person, and you can contact him on these locations, these details. And for RadiMation support, we have RadiMation-support@raditech.com as the support email address. But if there's an error inside RadiMation, we also have the possibility to send in an error report from RadiMation. That's what we strongly encourage to do, because it provides a lot of information about the error, about the communication with the devices, and it will be directly transmitted to us so we can directly investigate it. So I want to conclude my brief introduction to RadiMation with these remarks. We are able to automate the testing of the EUT, and the EUT is the most important part. We can control modern and older device drivers which are provided by RadiMation. We test according the configuration in the TSF, so you can easily adapt the configuration in the TSF to also adjust it to the standards. And we have a fully automatic generation of the report. And RadiMation is just fully capable of automating all EMC tests using all brands of EMC devices in an easy-to-use single software package. And that's what RadiMation is. So I'm not sure if didn't watch the chat, but if there are any questions, or I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you very much, John, for your presentation, your introduction to RadiMation. I think it was a very, very good detailed look inside the capabilities of your nice software tool. Mm-hmm. At the moment, we have no open questions, so your explanation was very, very good.
Thank you.
And yeah, at the moment, I can only say thank you very much for your time. And yeah, Marcus, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I see I think the questions are coming when the user are using RadiMation and they have an actual problem by the setup or by the programming. In this case, you can contact me directly, or you can also directly contact the Raditec if you have a support contract. This is normally mandatory for the most. Then you have a really very fast response from Raditec, because they are the experts and they know nearly every equipment and how to operate with the standards or the tests.
Yeah, We have. I'm not the only one. We have a team of 4 or 5 people working, and they are. We always have one engineer in the office, which is reviewing and is checking the mailbox and so on. And very often, if there is a critical issue with the control of a device or with something is not working, we are able to provide a solution by adjusting the device driver within a day, and most of the time at the end of the day we already are able to say, okay, just download the drivers, install the drivers, and then a solution is already working. So the support we also hear from other end users is good, and they are satisfied with it.
There is a new question is coming. How does RadiMation support reverberation chambers?
We are working on it. At this moment, I can tell we are working on it, and it will be supported in very soon.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Perfect. I think this are all questions we have received. So I say thank you to you for the good thematic and the improvement in RadiMation.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you all. Have a great Wednesday and a great rest of the week. And John, thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye all.